Springfield. Welcome to the February 26th Township of Springfield Planning Board Special Meeting. Adequate notice has been given in accordance with the Sunshine Laws. Notice was published on February 13th in the local source, which is one of the official newspapers of the Township of Springfield for the year 2025, and also posted on the Annex building on February 14th, which was Valentine's Day. Let's do a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to
to
the
the
republic
republic
in which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alex, you win the award for the best pledge.
Thank you.
Ms. Law, could we please have a roll call?
Mayor Rich Huber is having some technical difficulties. I don't think he's on yet. Committeeman Alex Kaiser.
Present.
Mr. David Barnett.
Here.
Ms. Marissa Ruggiero. I think she's going to be a little late. Mr. Aaron Loffer.
Here.
Mr. Richard Cedarquist.
Here.
Ms. Julie Tomeo.
Present.
Mr. Scott Wishna.
Here.
Vice Chair Sharon Castle.
Here.
And Chairman Jeff Tiger.
Yes, I'm here. Perfect. Sweet.
Great.
All right, so we have everyone. So the board is aware we have a special meeting. Ross Stores has asked for a special meeting for a conditional use change of tenancy for minor site plan bulk variance. They paid all the fees for a special meeting, which is important. Because we're going to be on Zoom this time, if anyone has any questions, we're just going to wait until we break, and then we'll go in the order that Jen called so Mayor Huber, Alex, David, will go in that order, so that way everyone knows the order we're going in, just so we can be efficient and go through it. So let's bring in Ross Stores. Real board's edification. This is next to Aldi Foods. They're putting in a Ross Stores. It's for really the issue there before us is because it's really the trash compactor with a bulk variance. We'll kind of spend a little bit of time working through that. But one of the things I wanted to point out, when we gave Aldi the approval, there was a long list of conditions and things on the site that needed to be done. Some of those things have been done. Some of those things could not be done because of winter, and some of those things just weren't done. So one of the things that I asked Mr. Disco to go through is he did an inspection of the site, which he sent an email. There's a long list of stuff. So if the board acts favorably, all those things would need to be done prior to them getting a CO, if the board acts favorably. So just to be aware. So let's bring up council so we can quickly go through this application. Apu?
He should be joining as a panelist momentarily.
It's Dustin Glass, yeah.
And Mayor Huber is joining by phone, so.
Okay, so then let's give it a second till he's done, so that way he's able to vote on this application.
We also need to admit Mark Semeraro.
I'm here.
Okay, so let the record reflect that Mayor Huber joined at 5:37 p.m. Before any testimony of the application, so he's fully eligible to vote.
Got it.
Okay, so Mr. Glass, if you don't mind turning on your camera, and Mr. Semeraro, if you could turn as well, so we can actually see you as a part of this, which is great.
We're actually gonna, Mr. Semeraro is going to be the one that needs to be admitted. He'll be the one leading the presentation.
Great. So I quickly gave an overview of what the application is going into Aldi. So spend a little time kind of explaining about the variance and your engineer and your planner. That would be great, short and sweet. And then the board can ask some questions.
For some reason, my camera is not going on, Mr. Chairman. Bear with me just 1 second, please.
Yes. So while you're doing that, let Mr. Disco give an overview of what he sees are the key issues to reiterate from my standpoint. So Mr. Disco, while we're getting ready.
I don't know why that's not going on.
Sure. I'll just state some obvious facts here. I mean, the Ross store is a permitted use in second tenant space on the multi-tenant building. Aldi, as you board members may recall, was approved. They are open for business. They are on the left side of the building if you're seeing it, and Ross Stores would be the right, closest to Hillside Avenue. So it's a permitted use. They're not making any exterior changes except for a addition of a trash compactor, which would be on the Hillside Avenue side of the building towards the rear of the building. The result of that is that corner island of the parking lot has to be removed, one tree removed, and they lose a couple of parking spaces, I believe 4 in total. They then do some restriping to have truck and all vehicular traffic, make that safe turning movement by the trash compactor. And that's essentially the proposed changes to the site. At the chairman's request, we did go to the site and look at what the current condition is and what would need to be done, as well as in our review memo to kind of summarize where the Aldi project was. They are on a TCO because of weather. They couldn't do some things. Obviously, as the weather changes, probably over the next month, they would be able to finalize some of their stuff, some striping, some pavement restoration. And we had received a letter from Wainwright Realty, Evan Slater's company, the property owner, about the ADA crosswalk for Ross Stores, hairpin striping to the spring. Stormwater maintenance management plan was submitted, and there was going to be some signage on the Aldi side for the traditional pickup type of operation where the
Aldi.
vehicle operator waits in the car and gets it delivered or walks in and leaves. That was just transposed to traffic markings on the pavement without the signs. So they're operational, and I can go through the list of site things, Mr. Chairman, or I see the applicant seems to be on, so you may want to shift back to that.
Let's go to the applicant. Let's go through some of the testimony on the location and by the variance if we need it, and then we'll go through. So go ahead, Mr. Glass.
Okay, so Chairman, it's Mark Sommararo.
Okay.
And I'm on my partner's computer because for one reason or the other, my camera wasn't working, so I apologize. I'd like to start by thanking you and the board for granting us a special hearing here this evening. I represent Ross Stores Inc., as you had indicated. That's lots 8 and 10, 701. I agree with what Mr. Disco had indicated with respect to the project. We have a number of witnesses here this evening, and I know that I don't want to belabor things. I have a representative from Ross Stores Inc. to discuss their operations. I have the architect to discuss the floor plans and elevations, which actually overlap with respect to the signage. We have a sign company representative, and then our engineer, Mr. Lanzafama, who is also our planner for this evening. So with your permission, I would go in that order. This is a 5 variance application. 1 variance is for the compactor as indicated. The remaining variances all relate to signage. 3 of them relate to permanent signage and 1 relates to temporary signage.
Let me Mr. Tavares, did you review the notice? Did it mention for signs? Or
Yes, it did.
It did, and it was also part of, I know it was part of also the review from Mr. Disco as well, because he submitted everything.
Okay, perfect. Go ahead. Just want to make sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first witness I'd like to call Harold Newstrom. Could be let in.
He's joining now.
Okay.
And he's from Ross Stores, correct?
Correct.
So short and sweet. I mean, it's a conditional use, permitted use. So unless we know they're going to sell clothes, maybe
Correct.
maybe kind of the hour, how it's going to conflict with Aldi or anything like that, but short and sweet. So go ahead.
Fair enough. Mr. Newstrom, are you present?
I am.
Okay.
Mr.
Would you like to have him sworn in?
Semeraro,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Newstrom, could you raise your right hand, please?
Yep.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and could you, I know that it's written out, but could you please state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Harold Newstrom, Newstrom.
All right, thank you. Counsel.
Thank you.
All-
Thank you. Good evening, Harold. I just have a couple of questions that I want to ask you swiftly regarding your role with respect to this project. Could you please advise the board who you currently work for?
I work for Ross Dress for Less.
Okay, and that's a clothing retail store?
It is.
Okay, and what position do you hold?
I'm a senior construction project manager,
And how long have you been employed with them?
about 2.5 years.
Okay. How many stores approximately does Ross have?
1,834,
Okay, and how many of those are located in New Jersey?
22.
Okay. And in your capacity as senior construction manager, are you familiar with the operations that are normally associated with a Ross store?
I am.
Okay. Could you please advise us how many shifts are there through the average day?
3 shifts per day.
And what are the regular hours?
They vary, but it's broken up between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. So, but those 3 shifts, basically.
Okay. Okay. And we are asking for the right to operate the store for the maximum hours permitted in the zone if they actually are larger than the 9 to 10 p.m. hour, correct?
Correct. Holiday hours would be the only thing would be affected.
Okay. And how many employees at any given time are working per shift on average?
5 to 7.
Okay. You have product, materials, supplies that you sell, clothes, shift to the store every week, correct?
Correct.
And how many deliveries do you have?
We get about 5 to 7 trucks per week.
Okay, and what's the maximum length of those trucks?
For this site, it's 40 foot.
Okay, and that loading will take place at the building?
Correct.
And as part of this project, you're repurposing the existing loading dock, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so the trucks will back up to the loading dock, and then the material will be offloaded internally into the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you do have shopping carts that are used internally, correct?
Yes, and we affix a pole to those shopping carts, so they are not able to be used outside the facility. They're primarily purposes for inside the store only.
Okay, and that's the primary reason why we have not allotted for shopping cart corrals, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now we are requesting relief so that we could install a compactor on site, correct?
Correct.
And that compactor, how frequently is it anticipated that it would be emptied?
It's about once every 2 weeks.
Okay, and that's significantly less than if you just used regular dumpsters and had regular rubbish pickup, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I have no other questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Disco, do you want to kick off and then we'll go to Mr. Mistretta? I'll go for
I
you
think
first.
from his testimony, I think the only thing I would ask is what the noise component would be for the compactor.
There was some data that was floating around. I don't know, Mark, if you got that information from Marathon.
Yes, we did submit it as part of the application, Mr. Disco. We would stipulate that we would comply with all noise ordinances, and there is sound attenuating encasement on the compactor as per the information that was provided.
Do we hold that for Mr. Lanzafama when he comes up?
Mr. Lanzafama may be able to add additional testimony to that effect.
Okay.
Certainly.
Anything other, Mr. Disco?
Not for this witness.
Boo, can you mute Mr. Disco's other thing that's opened up? So that way we don't hear the echo. You know, perfect. That's great. Okay, Mr. Mistretta?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Disco already asked my question. It's related to the noise and the frequency of the trash compactor. So if that's going to be addressed by another applicant, another witness, or the range that we're given is it's going to comply with our noise ordinance. The one question that usually comes up with our applications is if it's being picked up late at night and stuff like that. So I was just curious as to if there's a time when, I know it's going to comply with the noise ordinance, but the timing of it, I think, is important.
Good question. Mr.
It's
Newstrom?
completely
Good point.
flexible. From our standpoint, we can dictate when the hauler can pick up. We can specify certain hours.
Great. So it could be between 10 and 5 so it's when people are awake.
Absolutely.
Okay. So so I'll leave it to Mr. Disco. You can come up with a time, and that could be any condition of approval. But I would imagine, like we do with the generators, it's like a 9 to 5 type of thing when generators run, type of a thing, and not on holidays or Saturdays, during the week. Is that acceptable?
Harold will stipulate to that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, so stipulate.
Perfect. Okay, so let me open up to the rest of the board. Mayor Huber? I can come back to you.
He's on mute.
No, I have no questions.
Okay, it's good to see you, Rich. Good to see you doing well. Committeeman Kaiser?
No question.
Mr. Barnett? He's got a question, so let's give him a second to unmute himself.
Are we going to see any diagrams of where things are going? And
The engineer is going to put them up.
do that? Okay.
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that's why, Dave, I'm not asking how far from the residents, any of that stuff, because that's.
Yeah. I'm mostly interested with, we had talked a lot about Aldi and their deliveries, and want to make sure we sort of are smart about the entirety of the property.
Point. Marissa's out. Aaron, any questions?
Yeah, I don't know if this is the right witness for the question, but I'll ask anyway. Those 40-foot trailers, do we have any idea what kind of schedule of those, when those things come around? Is it during the day? Is it at night? Is it first thing in the morning? And how do you see that affecting traffic?
Well, as far as the hours, again, that's completely flexible. We can dictate hours of delivery.
I think it should be the same time period type of a thing. Obviously earlier in the morning, because then you're not affecting the circulation of traffic, but most of your stuff is going to come in and go right through the back of it, I would imagine.
Correct. Typical Ross, we typically deliver between 5 and 6 a.m. But again, but we are flexible.
Yeah, so that's one of the things like the board would talk about, during 9 to 5 type of hour way, because you do border in some parts, some resident and some apartments, and then across the street there's some residentials.
Yeah.
How often do they come? Is it weekly, daily, every other day? I mean, what is the frequency?
Pretty much daily, 5 to 7 days a week.
So it's like one delivery daily?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So we would avoid Sundays, because that was always the case with Aldi as well.
And I think that's why we say 5 to 7, because there are some stipulations where we can't deliver on weekends. So in that case, we would deliver 5 days a week.
Has there been a study done that looks at the traffic situation with these trailers?
Well, we have Mr. Lanzafama providing testimony to that extent, and we have the templates. We are further willing to stipulate that the deliveries and the waste removal vehicles enter the site from Route 22. We are familiar with the restrictions that were imposed on the Aldi. But it is a permitted use, so the impact on traffic is not something that would ordinarily require any sort of traffic study. It's a permitted use, but in order to address the board's concerns, we are stipulating to the restrictive hours and the restrictive manner in which to enter the site.
And I think Aaron, the only other thing we would have them do is do circulation to show that the trucks 40 foot can move throughout the site with the fire department to make sure that they're comfortable with that. That's all.
And we do have the turning templates, and Mr. Lanzafama could testify to that extent.
Perfect. That's it. Anything first, Aaron?
Okay. I am done. Thank you.
Richard?
Do you know who your contracted trash hauler is?
For this particular site, no. Typically, it's Marathon or it could be Synergy, unless there's a requirement for any particular city where we would have to use a different trash service. But those are our two main ones that we use here at Ross.
Okay, thank you.
And the requirement is that it's done between 9 and 5, so that way it's not affecting across the street and the apartments alongside.
Correct.
Who's next? Next, Mr. Wishna.
So I think I'll save my questions for a time once all the professionals' testimony has been presented.
Perfect.
But I do like the fact that representative of the applicant is stating that they have the ability to control their deliveries, whereas the Aldi representative wasn't able to commit to that.
Perfect. Julie? No questions? Okay, Sharon?
Just a quick question, piggybacking off of Aaron's question about the 40-foot trailers. When those deliveries occur, and you said they're almost every day, about how long do those deliveries take?
Takes about an hour and 30 minutes to unload a truck.
Okay. All right. That was really all the only question I had. So thank you.
And then the only question I have last is, you said the shopping carts, they're not going outside. What keeps them inside?
So there's a pole affixed to the shopping cart that hits the header of the door of the opening where they can't come outside. So essentially, if someone was to tip it over and drag it out, they're going to steal the cart.
Perfect. Okay. Let's go, council, let's go to the next witness. If there's any members of the public that's on, we will take questions from the public for all witnesses at the end of the application. So don't feel like you don't have an opportunity to speak. You will have an opportunity to speak. We're just trying to flush out all the issues first. Okay. So council, let's go with your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To that extent, I would ask Harold to remain on until testimony is done. So if there are any questions that haven't been asked, that you'll be able to answer them. For our next witness, I'd like to call Anthony Casada, our architect. Mr. Casada, is he present?
Be joining momentarily.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the architect is going to cover the signs, or you have a separate person for the signs?
We have a separate person to cover the signs. He'll I guess, speak to some of the signs that are on the facade very briefly. He'll just explain the elevation, the floor plan, to the extent that the board's truly interested on the internal.
I don't think we're concerned about the internal.
Okay.
What people see about it, sure, to give it more concern about what the sciences are, because we're very sensitive on that.
Understood. I will cover that superficially with him, and then I think our signed witness will be able to answer your question in greater depth.
If there's anything he could show with the elevation, that would be good too.
Yes. So you're signed in on my name, correct? So Jennifer, would you be able to permit my name, Mark Summerauer, to share documents so that Dustin could call up the plans?
I think I
during
switched all the
testimony?
names around so that they're correct. That said, Mr. Glass should be able to use your computer to share documents. I think you should
Correct.
have permission already.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Anthony, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you just fine. Thank you. Mr. Tavares, would you like to swear him in?
Yes. Mr. Casada, do you have a camera function?
I do. I apologize. I don't know why it's not functioning right now.
Okay. Well, we're gonna take your word for it that you have your right hand raised. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, counsel, would you like to voir dire your witness, or would you
Sure.
like? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anthony, could you please explain to the board your education and your licensure, please, as well as your training?
I studied architecture at the University of Illinois, got a bachelor's degree in 1974, registered originally in Illinois, but now am registered in over 30 states, including New Jersey.
Okay, and how long have you been practicing architecture?
I have been practicing architecture for approximately 50 years.
Okay, and have you been accepted in other jurisdictions as an expert in the field of architecture by land use boards?
Yes, I have.
Okay, this is your first time testifying in New Jersey?
Yes, it is.
Okay, but you did qualify in other jurisdictions?
Correct.
And your New Jersey license is currently active, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'd like to qualify him as an expert, please.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with it. Any issues with the board? Have any concerns? Sounds like he's very experienced.
Thank you. Thank you. So Anthony, for the sake of brevity, I would ask that you listen to the questions, because we're going to shorten up your testimony just a little bit that the board feels that they need additional information. They'll be sure to ask you those questions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So you are familiar with the site and the existing conditions on the site, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there's currently a building on the site that's partially occupied by Aldi Supermarket, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and we are intending to outfit the balance of the building that is not used by Aldi for the Ross, correct?
That is correct.
So at the, if we're fortunate enough to have this application approved, this will be a 2-tenant building, correct?
Correct. Ross is taking about 25,600 square feet.
Okay. And you had prepared a floor plan with respect to the proposed revisions that are proposed for the site, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And Dustin, could you just call that up real quick? Okay, so that's the floor plan that your firm had prepared, correct?
And
this is correct.
This has already been submitted to us, so there's no need to be marked, correct?
That's correct.
That is correct. Thank you. Okay, and that last revision date is December 19, 2024, and you signed and sealed those plans, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we were asked to skip the internal machinations on the floor plan, but towards the upper left-hand side of that drawing is depicted where the compactor is proposed to be, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, for the members of the board, I think that it's probably best to have Mr. Lanzafama testify as to that exterior alteration and how it interacts with the balance of the site, as he did the site plans associated with it. But to that extent, you did see the site plans and you do agree that they are consistent with the depiction of where the compactor is located, correct, Anthony?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. You also prepared elevations for this particular application, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I'd like to have them called up, and as Mr. Tavares had indicated, or I think it may have been the chairman, these were submitted, so they also need not be marked for identification. The elevation that's on the screen now is also dated December 19, 2024, and was signed and sealed by your office, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and when looking at the middle diagram, we do have the front facade or the front elevation of the proposed building, correct?
That is correct.
And we also understand that we ended up having signage diagrams that, or blueprints, or plans rather, that were submitted by the sign company, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so for the specifics of the signs, we're going to rely on their testimony, but just to highlight for the benefit of the board, the parapet where the Ross Dress for Less sign is constructed was expanded to accommodate that signage, correct?
That is correct, to accommodate the signage and to better define the entry location for the Ross store.
Okay, and in addition to that sign, we end up having 2 plaque signs as well as a flag sign, and those are proposed to be the 4 permanent signs that are posted on the exterior wall of this building, correct?
Correct.
And in addition to that, we are requesting permission to put films on the windows of the location, correct?
That is correct. That would be on the approximately 35 feet of the storefront that's on the right side of the entry.
Okay. And you've designed other Ross locations through your career, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the configuration that's being proposed here is consistent with their branding, correct?
That is correct.
And the films that are suggested for the windows have a practical impact. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Given the configuration indoors, if we didn't have the films, would we be seeing racks pressed up against the windows from the outside?
Yes, that area would be fixtured up against that wall. Yes.
Okay. And the more expensive merchandise that is displayed within the premises, is that also towards the front of the store?
I believe so.
Okay. And is that the reason why we're asking for films, both to shield maybe the less aesthetic racks that would otherwise be visible, as well as for security reasons?
That is true.
Okay. Now, your plans did not discuss the pylon sign, so we're not going to go into that.
You can go into whether these need variances or they meet the ordinances.
Okay, well, reviewing the board's, the board planner's letter, they Mike had identified 4 variances that were associated with the signs. Subsequently, I believe that Mike had indicated that the Ross Dress for Less sign, which was originally believed to need a variance for being oversized, was conceded that that was not triggered. Could Mike confirm the same?
Yes, I confirm that. I agree with that statement.
Okay. Okay. So with respect to the balance of the signs that are on the front, Anthony, you're aware of the fact that there's only 1 wall sign that's permitted, and we're in fact requesting 4, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you're also aware of the fact that only 20% of the windows are permitted to be obstructed. And I think that our obstruction is in excess of 68%, 66.7%.
I believe so.
Okay. And the reason for the obstruction in the windows is to shield what would otherwise be visible from the outside, correct?
That is correct, which would be the racking and the backs of the racking.
Okay. And the reason why we're requesting 4 signs, the 2 placards, the flag, as well as the sign on the parapet, is because that's part of Ross's regular branding, correct?
That is correct.
And in point of fact, are the window films also something that's consistent with Ross's regular branding?
We have done that in various situations when we are going into an existing building.
Right. And let me just ask you a quick question about that. And if I may just have the board's indulgence to lead just for speed's sake. If this was a ground up building, would you have had so many windows on it?
No, we would not.
Okay. And because this wasn't a building that was constructed to your specifications, you had to address or come up with a way to handle all that extra window space that you ordinarily wouldn't have?
That is correct.
And the only way to obstruct it would be to either use these films or just paint them, black them out. Is that correct?
That is correct. But
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
But we are proposing to use graphics so that it's more aesthetically pleasing.
Okay. Okay, so those are the variances that relate to the wall signage, Mr. Chairman. There is one that relates to the pylon that our signage expert will provide testimony to.
Where are the 3 signs? I only see the one Ross Stores and Dress for Less.
Okay. Yeah, could you just move so our other diagrams will be a little bit more, they'll be a lot more descriptive, but there's one placard where the cursor just was, if you could put it there. Thank you, Dustin.
Yeah.
And there's a flag.
Okay. It's fine. What else?
And there's another placard on the opposite side that's oval.
Okay.
What's a flag?
Okay.
Okay, that's negligible. Mr. Disco and Mr. Mike Mistretta, any issues with these? I mean, I've been to a bunch of Ross stores, just passing by when I'm around, and this does seem consistent to me on what they've done with blacking out the windows and so forth. So I'm less concerned about it, unless you feel there's a safety issue for the public not being able to, with visibility.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that the next presentation, you'll see the details on the signage package. It'll help clarify a lot of the questions that we have on the signs and what they look like. My other comment is on is a question for the applicant. On the film on the windows, should the board look to approve this project, would you agree to submit a construction detail or an example of this film to Mike and I, so we could take a look at it and feel comfortable with this? I understand the purpose of covering the windows. I would feel more comfortable if we had an example of what it's actually going to look like color wise and so forth. So
yes, we'll relate to that, Mr.
Any condition of approval will be to submitting something to you, both mics. Okay, let me open up the board, see if anyone has any questions. Committeeman Kaiser?
Yeah, I just want to see what they look like. I mean, is this like, are the films more permanent than, say, example that I saw was like the Halloween stores, right? They put like a film, kind of like an example of a costume, and then like within a month or so, and it works for them, right? They're out of there in a few months, is already like peeling off and would need to be like restuck up. So I'm just curious what these actually look like. And is it a film to like, is there still going to be light passing through, or is it going to be like full color and blocking it out? I just want to see a little bit more.
I would defer to the sign company regarding that, but my understanding is it's a full block out.
Yeah, so our sign witness is prepared to speak to those issues thoroughly.
Yeah, then I'll defer, and I agree. Totally unacceptable would be painting the window.
Yeah,
that is wholly unacceptable.
Feel and look lovely. Mayor Huber?
I have no questions.
Perfect. Mr. Barnett?
Yeah, I'll wait till the sign. This particular part of this testimony is completely unhelpful to me because I really don't know what a flag is, and I see one big sign, but not really anything else. So
we're gonna go to the sign guy.
Yeah, so this to me was a waste of time.
Marissa?
I'm good, thank you.
Perfect. Aaron?
Just a quick question. You mentioned one of the possibilities were to have graphics. What would they be graphics of?
Our sign person and their diagram actually shows examples of what the graphics are.
Great.
And they're also regularly involved in this process with Ross. There's just not a one-off sign company, so they could discuss the prototypical actions of Ross in this regard.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Richard,
I have no questions.
Darren?
Did you call me?
Yes, I went out of
No
order.
questions.
Julie? Okay, I don't think Julie had any questions. Mr. Wishna?
I guess we'll save the materials and renderings for the sign vendor, but for this particular witness, I mean, architecturally, you just testified that there's no other solution to the windows other than painting them or putting the film up. But was there ever a consideration to remove the portions of the windows and infill them with structure that matches the exterior brick and then drywall the inside? I'm confused at why you're saying those are the only options.
That was those are the only feasible options.
Feasible how?
From, just construction wise, it just, the elevation as it is balanced, but it's just that those particular window panels would be obstructed by the fixturing of the store inside. But from an outside, I think the balance of the fenestration, whether it's see-through or has graphics on it, is more balanced to the facade of the building.
Okay, so you're saying it was considered but deemed to be not feasible, or it wasn't considered and this is the reason why?
I think it works both ways. It doesn't. It's balanced as it is, and to infill those glass areas with brick would throw the whole balance of the facade off.
Okay.
Do you feel that? If I may ask a follow-up question to that extent, Mr. Chairman, Anthony, do you feel that it's more aesthetic as proposed, as opposed to infilling the windows?
Yes, that's what my point is. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, let's bring up the sign, so that way we can get through that, and then
very good.
And then the only one would be Mr. Lanzafama would be next.
Correct. Our next witness is Courtney Hornung.
Great.
How are you, Courtney?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Would you like to swear her in?
Yes. Sir Hornung, Ms. Hornung, if you can please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can you please state your name for the record, spell your last name?
Courtney Hornung, Hornung.
Okay. Counsel, if you could again, word you're the witness.
Thank you. Courtney, were you employed?
I work for Blair Image Elements.
Okay. And what type of business is that?
We are a national sign vendor and company. We do signage on architectural elements.
Okay. And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
I've been there 13 years.
Okay. And did you have any particular education, or was it on-the-job training for this particular position?
I do have a master's degree in business, but I received on-the-job training for the niche subject matter that we have in signage.
Okay. And through your 13-year career, have you learned as to what is aesthetic and what materials are best used for various type of signage elements?
I have, yes. So my main position is to manage the brand and make sure that that comes across appealing to consumers from our customers.
Okay. And through the course of your career, have you worked with Ross stores in the past?
Yes. So I've worked on Ross stores for 5.5 years, 109 stores approximately along the East Coast and in California.
And in that capacity, did you design the sign packages similar to the sign package that we submitted in support of this application?
Yes, we design the sign packages as well as provide construction details and everything to bring that conceptual to life.
Yeah, I'll cut it. I'll shortchange it. The board will accept her as a witness. Let's just dive into lines and kind of see where they are and what the variances are.
Awesome. Could you please call up the package? So this package was also submitted to the board, so it need not be marked as an exhibit. These are the sign drawings that were prepared by your company and submitted in support of this application, correct, Courtney?
That is correct.
And these are all dated October 31, 2024, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We already heard from the board's planner that the Ross Dress for Less sign does not need a variance due to its size, but with respect to drawing S1, there's a total of 4 signs that are present when only 1 sign is permitted by code, correct?
That's correct.
Could you please explain to the board what those 4 signs are and why they're necessary?
Yes, so you have your main Ross Dress for Less channel letter set, which is on the facade. You have
Point to that with the cursor.
You have 2 entrance logos, which are on either side of the windows. And then you have 1 under canopy flag mounted sign that is also an oval shaped that presents Ross.
Okay. And I believe that there are 2 other drawings that depict these, UCH and EL, if you could call those.
Yes, that depicts the under canopy sign that'll be right above the store door area. We refer to this as a flag mount just based off the fact that it is mounted on its side instead of up through the poles into the canopy.
Okay. And so if you were walking on the sidewalk in front of the store parallel to the front of the building, that would essentially be overhead at some point as you approach the door to the store, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Could you just tell the board what the measurements of that sign are?
This sign is 24 by 24 inches, sorry, excuse me, by 48 inches.
Okay. Okay. And that signage consistent with other signage at other Ross locations?
Yes, we put the sign at every Ross location.
Okay. And if someone was standing on that sidewalk looking for where the entrance to the Ross store was, would this be the most prominent sign that was visible from that location?
Yes, if they're walking down the sidewalk, this is the sign that they would see first.
Okay, so it's mostly for pedestrians then, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And could you go to the next drawing, please, EL? Okay, could you please explain to the board what EL is?
So these, we refer to them as entrance logos. That's what EL stands for. And we put them on either side of the door, flanking, again, to provide some direction for pedestrians and consumers that are coming into the store, provides them a little closer look at what the logo is and what they're walking into for the store.
Okay, Counselor,
yes.
Can you go to the wall pile? These are fine, and I'm sure we'll the discussion from our planner on these. Can you just go to the wall sign?
Sure.
The wall pylon, because that's the yeah.
You want to go to the wall sign, or this drawing right here is for the window?
Yeah,
film?
the pile, the one on the road. You have the right one.
Okay. 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 So, Courtney, you're familiar with the site, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the physical structure of this sign, is already existing, correct?
It is already in place.
Okay, and the Aldi half of the top sign is in place as well, correct?
Yes, they have that in place.
And the two signage positions below are currently blank.
That is also correct.
Okay, and we're proposing to have Ross take half of the top sign spot, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And our client is willing, if the board deems it appropriate, to black out the two signage spots below as well, correct?
We discussed in Aldi as well, so that's perfect.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
That was discussed in Aldi, so that's perfect.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So this sign was pre-existing, and it was pointed out that the maximum square footage for a pylon sign for a two retail location would be 75 square feet, and we are in excess of that, correct?
That is correct.
What's the total square footage of Ross's half of that top spot position?
Yep. The square footage is 101.5 square feet.
Okay. And again, that's an existing sign. We're not creating it. We're not expanding it, correct?
Correct. It is existing, and currently that panel is white.
Okay. Okay.
So seeing no other questions from your witness, Mr. Disco and Mr. Mistretta, anything concerns on these variances?
No, in terms of the pylon, I confirmed that the dimensions that you see in this display are there already, so there's no enlargement. I think the two plaque signs and the flag signs are very small, given the size of the site. Board members would understand on a corner lot, this is a through lot, you would be permitted a second sign facing Hillside Avenue. They've elected not to do that. So I think certainly the two plaque signs and the flag signs are probably less signage than what you would get with the secondary main wall sign. So I have no issue with it. It seems it's wayfinding and it's proper.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Perfect, Mr. Disco. Mr. Mistretta, from a planning standpoint, are you okay with this?
I support Mr. Disco's statements, and I don't think I need to just reiterate it, so I'll stop right there. I support these, the request for the variances.
Great. Let me pull the board real quick. Mayor Huber?
I support the professionals. I agree with them.
Committeeman Kaiser?
Agreed.
Mr. Barnett?
I don't agree. I think they're completely unnecessary. There's a reason our land use ordinances have these specifications. There's no way someone's not going to be able to find Ross stores. There's only 2 stores in that entire property, and the large sign is certainly plenty big that a flag, so someone is walking by can find the front door. Applicant, I don't buy that argument. So I'm sticking with what our land use ordinance says. To me, they're just overkill, superfluous, and the image of the films with all those people we're going to put on that, to me, looks incredibly busy. And I think the owner of the property did a very nice job with it. Aldi has a nice, it's clean, it's modern, and the busyness of those windows cheapens and junks up the site.
Aaron?
In this particular case, I'm in total agreement with Mr. Barnett on all accounts.
Okay. So we need more discussion on this. Richard?
Oh, we don't risk the vote.
What?
You go on.
Now, I'm in agreement with most of it. I do agree with Aaron, and when he said that the vinyl graphics on the front of the building, on the windows, they are a little bit too busy. I think it'd be something more simpler, and it would look much better.
And we'll talk when Mr. Lanzafama comes on. We'll ask him for some more information on that. But Marissa?
I can see both. I can see Mr. Barnett's point, but I don't really have an issue with it myself. So I don't have any questions, but
Okay.
yeah.
I know Julie had to leave her. Oh. Commissioner?
Yeah, I'm mostly aligned with Mr. Barnett and his comments. I won't repeat any of that, but I think that the window graphics to me are just a giant billboard. And while they may change over time, the images, material quality, it fades through sunlight, it peels, and then we're at the liberty of how well the applicant's going to change that out and maintain it. I do think it's overkill for what this site actually is. It's not a pedestrian area. Most of your visibility is through vehicular traffic. So I would want to see something way more toned down than what was presented with respect to the window graphics.
Sharon?
I'm okay with it.
Okay with it. Okay. Counselor, I cut you off. Did you want to? I thought Lonzafama would be discussing the window stuff. Do you want Courtney to discuss that from your side?
Yes, I think Courtney would be the more appropriate witness.
Go ahead.
Okay, could you call up the window graphics page? Okay, so Courtney, we do understand you heard the architect testify as to deviation and the need for the variance on the percentage of coverage.
Correct.
So we don't need to go over that again. Could you please explain to the board what the reason is that these graphics are needed? Why do we need to obstruct the window?
Right. So typical ground up Ross stores have very little windows storefront that doesn't allow exposure into their retail space and floor. Because the racks are up against the windows here, we do need to cover those to make it more aesthetically pleasing so that you're not seeing merchandise through the window, you're not seeing the racks. And they also do have high-end merchandise up front. The cash registers are up there, and we do it to kind of close off and provide less exposure to the cashiers as they're doing transactions.
Okay. And could you please explain to the board the quality of these films? Are they something that will deteriorate in time? Will they fade? Will they peel?
So the material has a 7-year warranty on it through the manufacturer that covers any type of fading. We actually use a 3-layer system. So you have the graphic, you have a laminate, and then we actually apply an anti-graffiti film to it, which is also a way to protect that storefront in case anything were to happen with those graphics, markers, spray paint, anything like that. It's to protect that graphic to avoid any external damage to it. These are placed seam to seam within the window mullions to not allow for that to be peeled up and to prevent a seal across that window when it's applied.
Okay. Now the graphics that are depicted in this sheet S1, are they similar to the graphics that were initially being proposed?
Yes. So for each Ross store, we propose window graphics based on the demographics of the area. So we can tailor the window graphics to meet the consumers in that area. So tailoring it to families, to different demographics that match the style of what that community is actually looking for. So we can alter the style and some of the images that are displayed as well.
Okay, and is there any type of graphic that could be proposed that would be less busy and more of a solid or a muted color to lend more a blending kind of impression?
Yes, in some cases, we've been taking the bottom section of the window graphic that you see there where it has what we would consider a blue wave through it that indicates Ross. We can use more of that on the window and less of the lifestyle images that you're seeing. To tone down some of that, we can place those in between windows so that you're not seeing so many faces on there and you're seeing more of a solid blue feature instead of images of, shopping and interactions with family there.
I'm going to cut you off.
Okay.
1 second. So what's the closest Ross store to us? And is it designed similar? Now, I was in
Watchung.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
do they have the same thing?
So Watchung is actually having window graphics installed next week prior to their store opening on 3/7, and they do have lifestyle images that would be proposed there.
Okay. I'm not saying that it's the right thing. I mean, if McDonald's came in, they wouldn't get a big golden arch just like they have maybe on Route 22 versus here in Springfield either. But I just want to get to the understanding. I do know I saw one in Boca, Florida the other day, and I did notice the windows were covered as well. So, or it was Boynton Beach. It was actually Boynton Beach. So I know that is something that's done. That's why I'm a little bit okay with it, but I understand Mr. Barnett's and the other board's concern because, what you're putting up today could be something different tomorrow and so forth.
So these graphics are permanent that we would put up. We would not interchange the style that's up there. So it's not a revolving display that we would put up. The only time that they would ever change it would be in a permanent situation.
If the board were inclined to consider a revised film, is there a minimum percentage of lifestyle depictions that you would like to have versus a solid panel? In other words, would you be able to live with a 50-50 split between lifestyle pictures and a solid panel or some other percentage? You heard me, right? Couldn't.
Yes. Sorry. We would be able to modify this to match the jurisdiction. So we can put in that solid film if it's more desirable to mix that with the lifestyle images. Just due to the number of windows here, that's why it does look like it's particularly full.
Okay. So Mr. Chairman, to the extent that the board is able to have some tolerance for the lifestyle photos, we do have flexibility and would be willing to accept a combination of solid panels versus lifestyle.
Yeah, maybe that's something. We'll pull the board a little bit of that towards the end.
Okay.
And go from there. So nothing further from this witness. I want to get Lon's follow up because I do know a few of my board members here have to be off by 7, and I want to make sure we have enough people to
understood. Okay.
So, Mr. If you don't mind coming up, you've been before us a million times, so you can less question him from wadeering him. I think the board would accept him, but just let's make sure his licenses are in effect today.
Fair enough. Mike, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. So, Mike, you've been accepted as an expert by this board before, and all of your licensures remain active, correct?
That is correct.
Can I just swear him in first? Mark?
Yes,
Yeah, that would help.
Thank you. As you are, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I did. Yes, it is. My name is Michael Lanzafama. That's Lanzafama. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor and planner, a principal with the firm of Casey and Keller Incorporated, 258 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey.
Thank you.
And Mike, as we indicated, your license are current, and I do submit him as an expert, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
and we've been before us.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I know that the board's familiar with this site. I know that the board engineer had submitted, as we have, pictures that accurately reflect the current condition of the property. I don't think, from my perspective, I need to have testimony on that. Those particular issues. I'm not sure if the board agrees. If they do, we'll go proposed site plan.
No, I think let's focus on the dumpster and the location, the sound, is as long
Fair
as
enough.
Mr. Fama agrees on the record that he's reviewed everything that Mr. Disco has sent with the most recent inspection report. And the applicant does understand that unless all those issues are complete, there would be no CO given to Ross Stores. Or that's right. Okay, good.
I agree. Yeah, and we've had communication with the property owner, Evan Slater, who was deeply involved with the whole application for Aldi's and has indicated to me that he's willing to comply with all of the conditions of the prior approval, as well as anything that might be needed to be rectified on the site currently.
Perfect. That's great. Okay, so let's just focus. If you can put up the location of dumpster, explain the distance between explain the distance between the residential across the street, the apartment, so forth, the sound. I know that you and Mr. Disco met and did talked about a lot of screening there. So let's quickly kind of go through that and then open it up to the board.
Sure. What I've put up on the board is the overall site plan that is part of the application that was submitted. It has a date of January 25th, I believe, 2025. We've added some color to it to help the board better identify the various elements of the site plan. I guess we would call this Exhibit A1 since we added some enhancement to the plan.
I'm not seeing a colored version.
Excuse me?
I'm not seeing a colored version here. Are you gonna call it up so they can show?
I have it up. Does the board
No.
see this?
Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, so that'll be A1. And Mike, I believe the date of that plan is the 27th, January 27, 2025.
All right, close enough.
Okay, yep.
Okay, on the exhibit, Hillside Avenue is to your right. Route 22 is to your left. The Aldi's tenant space, as you are all aware, is directly off of the Route 22 area, the southern half of the building. The northern half of the building would be the Ross Stores. And what we are proposing to do as part of the application is to provide a trash compactor located at the northwest corner of the building to allow for access to that trash compactor by refuse vehicles. We've eliminated an island, one tree in that location, and 4 parking spaces so that trucks can maneuver through the site, come around, back into position, and then exit the site. All of the truck traffic would come in off of Route 22, and I'll show you an example of that. On the southwest corner of the tenant space is the loading area. Again, the delivery trucks, as testified, would come through the site off of Route 22, circumnavigate through the back portion or the Hillside Avenue side of the site and pull into position, be unloaded, and then exit via Route 22. So all the truck traffic, both deliveries as well as refuse, would come in off of and exit out of the site onto Route 22. I have a blow up also of that area to better identify the area. This also shows some of the existing and proposed vegetation. This is the detailed site plan north. And this is the same drawing that was submitted. However, we've enhanced it with some color. So I assume
That'll be A2.
A2. So again, you can see when I blow up the area in the northwest corner of the building, you can see the trash compactor. And what we've done is we're proposing a 6-foot high solid fence immediately around the compactor pad. And then what we've done is move the curb out away from the solid fence so we can enhance that with some green giant arborvitae to be planted at 6 to 7 feet in height at planting. We've also replanted a new shade tree, the one that we lost in the island that was removed. We simply are proposing a new dogwood that would be 2.5 to 3 inch caliber. Along the current Hillside Avenue frontage, there is existing vegetation. As part of the Aldi's application, we added some hedgerow along that side of Hillside Avenue. And I had some conversations with Mr. Disco about possibly supplementing with some additional green giant arborvitae or other evergreens, perhaps in this corner, to better shield out those few residential properties that are immediately to the north of the site. And we can do that. This plan obviously hasn't been updated to reflect that, but we would certainly accept that as a condition of approval, that we would add some additional evergreen enhancement to the northwest corner of that northwest driveway.
Mr. Zafama, I know Mike, we're going to make it a condition of approval that you're going to satisfy Mike with any and all landscaping, and I'm sure you're comfortable with that. But let's, because I have a few board members that need to leave in 15 minutes, so I need to make sure that we can get to a vote, or otherwise this will get recarried. Focus on the compactor, back location, how the sound to the apartments, to the hillside people, that sort of things.
Okay.
That's it.
The rear portion of the building, where the compactor is over 180 feet from Hillside Avenue. Then you have the width of Hillside Avenue and then the residential properties across. So you're looking about a 200-foot separation between those properties and the compactor. The property immediately to the west are apartments. You have the Freeman Apartments that are immediately to our west. There is a solid fence there. We have the evergreens, so that separation there to the main building is probably well over 70 feet. There's an existing driveway and parking area located first, and then there's the main structure. So there's a significant separation. So we don't see the sound as being intrusive to the neighbors. They will certainly meet all of the requirements of the sound ordinances, as well as the state law with regard to the number of decibels. And the fact that we're going to be able to use a compactor that only needs to be picked up, I believe the testimony was once a week, and as opposed to several pickups that would have to occur if it was a typical dumpster in an enclosure that would have to still navigate through the parking area. So it is certainly a benefit to have this trash compactor as opposed to a typical outdoor refuse area. And keep in mind that your ordinance, I believe it's 35.8, that actually requires that every non-residential property have a recycling and refuse area. So that's really important to consider that in this analysis. Granted, it's located between the side or rear of the building and Hillside Avenue, but I believe that the landscaped enhancement, the solid fence, the lesser number of truck movements to and from the dumpster all add to the benefit, granting a C2 variance that would be associated with this application.
Michael, is it your testimony that you think that the residents, since it's only picked up once a week and it's between normal hours 9 to 5, they've agreed to, that there's no inconvenience, they won't be able to hear it, it'll be, you know, just like running a generator type of a thing.
Right. That's my testimony, Mr. Chairman. It's certainly a benefit. The benefit outweighs any detriment to granting of the variance, in my opinion.
And then just as the part of the site here, Mr. Disco finds we need more landscaping to buffer, whether it's now from the resolution or in a field inspection when this is being installed, an agreement to install more arborvitaes.
That is correct.
Perfect. I don't see any. You have anything further, counsel?
The only other question that I have is with respect to the signage. Do you perceive any detriment to the zoning ordinance or to the neighborhood?
No, in my opinion, the signs that we were proposing, the 4 signs on the eastern facade, as well as the sign along Route 22, are certainly appropriate and necessary. In this day and age where retail users are struggling, identification is utmost importance. And the fact that the building is the tenant space is behind the Aldis, I think it's imperative that they have that. As far as the panels that are filling in the glass veneer of the building. I've seen that done in a number of projects where we're retrofitting older buildings, and it does come out very nice if it's done appropriately. And I think kind of handing the reins over to Mike and Mike to take a look at what exactly they do, I think you can trust them that they will ensure that it will be tastefully done, and I'm sure the Ross stores will appropriately maintain them over time. So in my opinion, that too can be granted under the C2 criteria without a substantial detriment to the public good or the intent and purpose of your zone plan.
And one more thing, Michael, for testimony, I know you're losing 4 spots. You don't need it from any count.
We don't. We have adequate parking. I think Mr. Disco reflected that in his review memo.
Yep. Okay. Let me get Mr. Disco on because I know he has to jump off soon too. Mr. Disco, anything that you would like to add? I know they agreed upon they're going to do letters, everything that in your site inspection prior to a CO being granted. Any field additional landscaping that you feel necessary is going to be added. Anything obviously before this application goes for a construction approval, you'll make sure that there's all the trees that you feel are needed right there and then. Anything further, Mr. Disco?
I had prepared a list of the site issues. Mr. Lanzafamos and you have talked to that, so I won't repeat it. I'm comfortable with the additional landscaping offer, which there are only 2 houses that can look to the property that would see the trash compactor. So I think that screening on the northern driveway there would be very effective. I was pleased. I did look at the cut sheet of it, and given the frequency of what I heard, I believe was once every 2 weeks. I don't think the noise plus the buffering and the noise matters within the yard of the compactor site. I think that has muted, I think, that concern to a great degree. So I think if you feel the visual impact is going to be masked by the 6-foot fence and then the green giant arborvitae, which is a very effective screening plant, then I think that you can get comfortable with it from an aesthetic point of view. There were truck turning templates provided. There should be no issue with the circulation of the site for the trucks that have been offered, and also for fire equipment from Springfield equipment that have been provided. So that should be muted as well. We have done numerous, and I provided them to the board, historic parking at the Saturday, Sunday, and weekday, and there should be no issue with the parking. I think if we got to the point where the parking lot was full, then Ross is probably giving something away for free.
Signs.
Those are my site comments.
Okay. One other thing to add to your comments. The site going forward, there's 2 tenants in there. There's no reserve parking for either tenant with the exception of handicap parking. Just want to make sure that's on the record and agreed by the owner, so we don't run into issues where one tenant's saying they have 2 spots.
Understood.
Mr. Mistretta, there's too many mics on there between the engine guys. Mr. Mistretta.
Mr. Chairman, again, probably one of the biggest comments from Mr. Lama's testimony was the additional landscape buffer. I'm not going to reiterate it. I think both professionals have already addressed it, and they've stipulated they're agreeing to our report. Our report has some more minor comments regarding lighting, landscaping, so on and so forth, that they've agreed to address to help clean up the site, enhance the aesthetics of the site. So I have nothing further to add above that.
Perfect. Oh, can you just give us your thoughts on this blocking of the covering of the glass? I will tell you, I saw Boynton Beach probably 2 weeks ago. I didn't think it looked bad, but I understand David's concerns, Mr. Burnett's concerns. So I want to see, is there a compromise? Is there something that you think you guys can work out off line of this meeting, or what do you think?
That's my biggest concern. I brought it up maybe a half hour ago earlier on when the architect was testifying. That's why I brought it up specifically to the film, and I asked for at that time a construction specification. I asked if they would agree on the record to work with me and Mr. Disco, so I could feel more comfortable with it, so I could represent to the board that we've got it right. And I'll just reiterate that I would like to learn more about it. I'd like to see some examples and what the options are, and see some construction details on it. And that's why I asked before if the board would consider the application, that would be a condition of the approval, and they would go through that process.
Maybe it's something that we remand to the TRC to handle that problem.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's a very important factor in this application.
And if the TRC is not comfortable, they can remand it back to the board.
Correct.
Okay, so let me open it up to the board, because I know that several members have to, and then we have to open up to the public. Committeeman Keisner?
No.
No? Mr. Huber? Mayor Huber?
I'm concerned about the film also. I want to see it before it's installed. I want to know the material it is and everything else like that.
So
I wouldn't approve anything until I see it in person.
So
You're both off on Friday?
you're not comfortable and we remand that part of the application to the TRC.
Yes. Sorry, what did you say?
Rich, I was asking is if the board would act favorably, but remand that part of the application for the kind of sign where it goes.
Yes.
Is it okay if they make that decision? If they don't feel comfortable, then the TRC is Mike, John, and so forth.
Yes.
You're okay with that then?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Chairman, a TRC is Technical Review Committee, or?
Yes.
Thank you.
The notice committee, you would make an appointment to meet with the engineer, planner, our business administrator, and if they not comfortable, they will remand it back to us.
Fair enough.
But again, I want to hear what the other board has to say. We're only
understood
one person. Mr. Barnett?
Well, I'll be in Boynton Beach in a day or so I can take a look at what it looks like down there. I don't have any issues on the compactor or anything like that. I think that all makes sense, and I've mentioned my issues about the signage.
Okay, and I understand that. Marissa, real quick, I know you have to jump off too.
Yeah, nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay, Aaron?
Yeah. Question I have, has there been any consideration about if the trailer, I'm going back to the truck trailers now, if they're coming at the same time as both Aldi and Ross, has that been thought about at all? If they happen to get a delivery at the same time?
I assume that they can coordinate with one another, but truck maneuverability through the site can work for both deliveries. The way we had designed the Aldis was they basically come across the front and back in. For the Ross stores, they come around the back and pull in and back into position. So technically, they could both operate at the same time.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if that was addressed. And the other thing I did want to comment about the films is I just think the lifestyle pictures, I think those are more appropriate for something where people are walking, like inside a mall while you're doing construction, or some kind of big center. This is not really a pedestrian place. So I just think I agree. I think it's going to look cheap, and it's going to really be overwhelming. So I really don't like the.
Aaron, how about we appoint you to the TRC to sit through help as a representative of the board when they meet?
No problem. I'd be happy to.
Awesome. That solves that problem. Full trust that you're going to make sure it looks perfect with them and come up with a good solution.
Okay.
Peterquist?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the compactor. I think that'll be fine. My one concern would be was how are they going to control trucks not coming off of Hillside Avenue? And
Well,
the reason I say that is because I've driven trucks for many, many years. They're going to come in the easiest way they can.
We have the best zoning enforcement officer that loves to find people. So if it's reported and it's happened, I am sure Mr. Disco is going to make sure that our inspector finds them if that's the case.
And keep in mind how many stores Ross has. This supplier of service, the trash pickup and delivery people, are going to listen to their tenant, whatever their client is telling them to do. And if they've forewarned them that they have to stay off Hillside and they violate that, and Ross gets notified, I'm sure they're then going to notify their vendor that they're in jeopardy of losing their contract. So that's a big hammer.
Mhm.
Okay, Julie left. Mr. Wishna?
Under the Aldi application, I thought there was in part of the resolution was that they were required to make the area where the trash compactor is being proposed to become ADA compliant, so that our neighbors in the adjacent Freeman apartments, many of whom are physically disabled, would have access to the Aldi. So I don't see where there is an ADA path of travel that would connect Freeman Apartments now to this 2-tenant center. I do see that there's been some ADA ramps installed on the sidewalk adjacent to Hillside Avenue, but I am now confused as to how physically disabled individuals would be able to access the shopping center.
So, Mr. Lanzama, I'm going to defer to you, and I only have 5 board members left. So,
Okay. So the way we set up the trash compactor is obviously located in the appropriate location for the Ross stores. What we did do as part of our prior approval for Aldi's was do those major improvements all along Hillside, creating the appropriate ADA ramps across every driveway. The fact that once they have to traverse through the parking lot, we had anticipated that as part of the Aldi's modifications. We were more focused on pedestrian traffic for the handicapped along Hillside Avenue. There is the possibility we could install in the center portion of the site. There is a series of islands with some shade trees in that could be retrofitted to create a path through the parking lot that could be appropriately striped and made ADA compliant. The grades through that area are not severe. If you give me a moment, I will bring up my exhibit one more time.
Making those efforts would be highly appreciated.
You could see these islands through here, and perhaps we can create a walkway somewhere through off the main sidewalk and onto a pathway that could then bring them up onto the sidewalk, which would then take them to the front of Ross and eventually to the front door of Aldi's. So we can certainly look at that. And the fact that we still have to do restriping on the lot, we could probably make that happen.
I think
Thank you.
that was great point. So we'll leave that to you and Mr. Disco to resolve, and we'll trust what Mr. Disco comes up with you on that.
All right, thank you.
Sharon had left, so I don't have any other further questions. So at this time, I'm going to take this matter and open up to the public. Any members of the public that wish to speak on this application 2-2025S? Apu, I'm going to ask for your help to identify anyone that wants to speak.
I see no hands raised at this time.
Okay, seeing that, I'm going to close this matter to the public and remand it back to the board. So look, from my perspective, obviously any approval has to be on every single thing being completed from the Aldi discussion and anything new Mr. Disco came up with, field installation of additional plants.
I apologize. One hand came up just as you started your comment.
Okay, so let's go back. We'll backtrack. Go ahead. Public's important. Can you bring him in or her in? Okay, I see a hand up. Mr. Stevens, is that it?
It should be joining in a moment.
Able to hear?
Yes. For 1 second before you speak, I just want to make an announcement for anyone here that's listening to hear the consistency report on the redevelopment plan for the prior Bank of America site. That is going to be carried till 3/24/2025. It will not be heard this evening. So anyone here for it, 3/24/2025, we're only going to finish this application up. So go ahead, ma'am. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'm one of the few houses that's across the street on Hillside Avenue, and I'm questioning the compactor. I understand all the points.
Can you state your name for the record and address?
Stevens, 56 Hillside.
Perfect.
Okay. My question regarding the compactor, and again, I heard of the points and I understand them that they're going to be picked up maybe once or twice a week. But what about when it's actually doing the, I guess you would say, compacting? And part of my ignorance here, but what's that noise level? And when is that going to be done? During the day?
I'll let the witness answer, the attorney answer, but on behalf of them, we did agree between 9 and 5, which are the times that we typically allow people with generators or any accessory structures that have to do a weekly running in order for maintenance to take place. So that should be during normal hours, not when you're sleeping or the peaceful enjoyment of your home.
But would that be a daily thing?
No, they said, can we bring back on?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So I do have a little bit more information. So Marathon equipment spec is 77 decibels on the parking side with a max of 84 decibels on the motor sign along the building. Normal speech is between 60 and 65 decibels. Vehicles are 70 to 85 decibels. The compactor, when it's in operation, so say when the truck comes in, they take all their boxes and throw it in there, it cycles for about 30 seconds. That's the only time that it operates. So when they crush the boxes and they engage the compactor, it runs for about 30 to 40 seconds tops. So it's not like the compactor is on 24 hours a day or, 8 hours a day or something like that. It's just when they push that switch. And it's typically during or right after delivery.
And no difference between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Correct.
Great.
And it shouldn't be louder than a car, you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, it is going to be screened in, and our engineer testified that that's giving the proper screenage to help with that sound as well.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. Any other questions further?
I think you guys have been doing really good in asking and digging into what it is that's going to be done. So we do appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the feedback.
And Mr. Chair, I believe it was once every 2 weeks too, the frequency.
For pickup.
Yeah. I thought someone said once a week. Can we just clarify?
No, it was once every 2 weeks as per Harold. Mike thought it was this week.
I misspoke. I said once every week.
Mike's not an expert witness now anymore. We'll have to discuss that. Any other members of the public that wish to speak? Anyone else?
Seeing none.
Seeing none, I'm remanding it back to the board so we can take action. So any favorable action, like I said, no CO issued until that whole entire list that is completed and inspected by Mr. Disco. Additional landscaping is needed. The ADA handicap requirements that came up with Mr. Wishna. Agreement to meet all the letters, that both sets of letters from Mr. Mistretta and Mr. Disco. The window screening is going to be bifurcated and remanded to the board, to the TRC. If the TRC, which is our professionals in the town, and Aaron agree with it, that'll be great. It'll be approved. If not, it will go back to the planning board for reconsideration at the next meeting of March 24th. Now, so let's take a second to do this, Matt. So, should we be taking action tonight, or should we take action on 3/24 and adopt the resolution in the same night? What is the cleanest way for us to do that?
With an outstanding issue present.
Yeah, the outstanding issue is kind of. Are we?
I think we should wait. I feel we should wait.
Yeah, and that's why, Mr. Huber, that's why I brought it up to do it. So if I do, so Counselor, if we adopt the resolution, I'm assuming you guys will get an agreement on, with the TRC. If you get an agreement with the TRC, then they come back, you open up the application, we'll say we had an agreement with the TRC, it'll be 4 minutes. We'll remand it, open it up to the public, because public will have an opportunity to speak again because it's an open public meeting, and the application then will hopefully be approved. And then we would I'll adopt the resolution. I'll instruct Counselor to adopt the resolution in the same night. So this way you're not, you're not hurt by it. Because to be honest, the resolution will be adopted till March 24th anyway, at the soonest.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would also ask the applicant to relook at those 3 oval signs, the flag, and those other 2. You heard my opinion about them earlier. If we're going to have the films and those 3 and the huge sign, I'd like them to relook at that. That's an issue I have.
Okay, that's fine. Aaron
would sway my vote.
Aaron's just got a bigger job now that he's responsible for. So Counselor, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this to a vote until 3/24. I will instruct Council to draft a resolution in advance, so that way we can do everything on the 3/24. Okay.
Could I make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
The reason why we asked for a special meeting was because of certain time constraints that existed between the applicant and the landlord. Is it possible for us to take a vote on everything except the signage and then have that carried to the next hearing so that they could potentially get the
principal use only with the compactor?
Principal use with the compactor and the site plan, the site plan with the exception of the signage.
Any of the signs. Perfect. I would think that.
Well, then what happens if we vote down the signs?
Well, they can put in whatever signs they want that meets the ordinance without variances. So they can eventually put whatever signs in. Our ordinance allows X.
Windows clear and none of the small signs.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're not going to adopt anything until the next meeting, right? So.
Well, I think Rich, what I think, Mayor Huber, what I think I'm trying to do is make sure that the board is comfortable with a Ross store going in there, that it functions within our zoning ordinances that it has. And I think our board engineer and planner have both told us that, as well as the testimony from Michael Ansafama, which is we've heard from just as many times as we've heard from other folks, that we would approve the Ross stores without any signs. So we bifurcate the application, and that other part will come back. Now, you'll have to work with council to figure out how that gets dealt with as far as notice or whatever it might be. But
we would be carrying the notice. We would be carrying the notice at this hearing to the next date. So I don't think that we carried on the record. So I don't think there's a notice issue as long as you agree, Matt. I think that the reason for the request was hope that with the board's consent that my client could pull the construction permits for the construction components of the site plan approval, with the exception of the signage. Yeah, in the interim.
Yeah, I'm not worried. I would suggest the board. I think that it meets all.
Think of this.
What?
What does our council think?
Well, the initial request was what's the cleanest way, and obviously we're finding out what might be a not as clean way. I don't necessarily have an issue if everyone is in agreement with separating out strictly the signage issue. I do have a concern about whether or not that does have an overall impact. I don't have a problem with the site plan being voted on and you remove the signage issue. I might have to work with council as to whether or not that sign issue, if it can be separated out via an adjournment, or if it just has to be a brand new application on or something similar to a renewed application on that. I don't know.
Either a new application or amended application, something along that line.
Well,
Alex is raising his hand.
I'm just theorizing here. If the signs say we have issues with the signs, I mean, what's permitted? Does Ross Stores paint the windows? Because I would find that really objectionable.
They can't. They only could do a certain. We have an ordinance, and Mike Mistretta can do that. They can only cover a certain amount of the windows. Anyway, Mike.
Yeah, 20% allowed by ordinance. They would be down to one sign. The other 3 would go away. So all of the number of signs, the sizes, painting, all of that goes away very quickly.
So,
got you. So they would be limited to then 20% coverage of the windows and one sign if nothing gets worked out.
Yes,
all right. That clarifies my issue.
Okay, so real quick, because I know another, and I actually also have to go too. I have to travel an hour and a half now too. Look, I'm comfortable either which way. I do understand what council is asking for, and I understand because of that's why we did the special meeting, is to see they have contract restraints to be able to potentially whether they can keep the site or not, and they've done work on it. So the idea is we can just bifurcate it out, approve them just for the site only, which is the trash compact, landscaping, all that other stuff, all the other conditions, and they'll come back to the board with the site with an amended application for signs, and that will be on the 3/24 date, which we can do the resolution will be both at the same time. Matt, you good with?
I don't understand why it would be an amended application. We would be
voting
carrying.
on we're voting on one thing,
Right.
And
correct.
I still, we're closing out the application with a resolution, so you'd have to amend it, in my opinion. I mean, you work with Matt. I'm not the attorney. Okay, Matt will figure that.
So that component would be carried to the 24th with or without notice, depending on what council ultimately agrees.
Yes.
I think what we're gonna do is waive what I want from you is that you're waiving vote on the signage issue right now. And that is something that we will work together on as to the legal functionality of that signage issue. But for now, you're waiving any vote on it, and all you're asking for is for a vote on the remaining aspects of the site plan application.
I think that if I'm waiving it, then it's closing it out completely, and I don't think that is necessary. I think that we could have interim votes. If you disagree, I don't want to belabor the point. And I would like to just get confirmation from my client. If I could just have 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm going to lose another member.
do we have enough time? Do we have enough members to vote if I go? Because I'm 45 minutes late now.
Yeah, me too. 1, 2.
Okay, well then, rather than lose, I'd like to walk out at least with this, because we know that we're not getting a vote on everything this evening anyway.
Yeah.
So let's go with a vote along those lines.
So
that's okay,
if
Mr. Chairman.
everyone, I'd like to get a motion for everything but the signs with all the conditions, agreement on all the letters, handicap being added in as Mr. Wishna described with Mr. Lanzafama, and everything to do with the signs have nothing to do with this. That they're going to want to do pull construction permits for inside stuff only, nothing outside, and they're proceeding at their own risk because this won't be adopted anyway until 3/24, which we let people proceed at their own risk all the time. So can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
And also I want to that they will work with the TRC between now and the next meeting, and the board agrees, and the planning board rep for the TRC to kind of come back to us with a report. So
you mean to Ben Kaiser?
Yes, comfortable is described by the chairman. Yes.
Mayor Huber?
Yes.
Mr. Barnett?
Yes.
Mr. Lawfer?
Yes.
Mr. Cedarquist?
Yes.
Mr. Wishna?
Yes, with the conditions.
And Chairman Tiger?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so, and you want to wait before everyone says anything, you want to waive reading because the resolution is not till 3/24. Construction inside the unit only. Correct, Council?
It broke. Were you speaking to me, Mr. Chairman? It broke up.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Your only construction is allowed is inside the building, nothing outside.
They can go seek the permits for, they can begin seeking the
Well,
permits.
the compactor as well, correct? The compactor as well.
Yeah, I would imagine, and yes, I would imagine anything.
Yeah, so that's exterior.
exterior. Just don't do anything.
And I think there may be some changes to the parking deck. The changes to the building. It just not the signage.
Don't put up any signs, don't cover any glass, don't even put the
Correct.
pylon now.
No signage,
No signage whatsoever. Fine,
but everything else.
that's fine. And then please work at a
Yep.
meeting now. And so we're gonna carry this to the signage part with counselor figuring this out until 3/24. I'm gonna tell everyone there's no further notice, but there could be notice if needed.
Perfect.
The signage issue. And then, so thank you very much. And then for everyone else that's here for the redevelopment application, that will also be carried till 3/24. Council, do we need to notice again because it's redevelopment, or is it just part of our normal meetings?
On this consistency review?
Yes,
No, we're fine.
we're fine. Perfect. I'm gonna carry.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for point of clarity, 3/24, what time does that meeting start? And it's in person, correct?
In person at 6:30 in Town Hall.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other members of the public that wish to speak on any business before the board? Seeing none, I'm gonna close this motion. Can I have an application? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you guys very much. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Record.